Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode 18 after a wild NFL draft last weekend. It still feels like I'm still blown away by the whole thing. I know Freight Train and I were pretty busy night one, night two. Shout out real fast to Kenny for popping on. Thank you to the comment section. You guys kept the show alive about a half hour longer than I would have on my own. So much appreciated to you guys. Tonight we have a couple of things. We're going to recap a little bit on the draft. Not too much. Obviously, everybody's doing that right now. We also are going to be announcing our mock draft winner. He is actually in the back room right now. We'll bring him out in just a couple of minutes just to give him a little bit of love and thank him for participating. He's actually been a buddy of mine for a long time. He has very little football knowledge. So how he pulled this off, we'll find that out in about 5 minutes or so here. But shout out to him. And to everybody else who participated, I went through all the emails. I was very careful. We dug through. We looked at every single one the best we could to try to find out how many everybody had right. All I can say is I'll give the runner-up numbers. I won't give everybody's name, but it was pretty close. One person was just one shy away from where Danny finished off. Some people had two right. I think somebody only got picks 1 and 2 right. Some people only got one right. Some people thought the Washington was going to trade and the Patriots were going to trade. It was a whole wild mock draft. But we'll get to that in just a minute. In the meantime, just some immediate thoughts real fast. Shout out, like I said, to you guys again. You guys helped me, really propel that show on Friday night. Even though nobody, was showing up the way they were supposed to. But tonight, just a little bit more fun, a little bit more laid back, a little bit more comedic. So Danny, before you guys find out, he doesn't know a lot about football. So I kind of just gave you the first name of the winner, but that's fine. So moving on here, NFL draft recap. Obviously, Michael Penix Jr. has been the talk of all the NFL going at number 8. I think the more you think about it, the more you love it. The reality is Michael Penix going there makes sense. I mean, Kirk Cousins has not finished a full season in multiple years, coming off of a torn ACL, being, 36 years old. He'll be 38 by the end of the contract, making $45 million. Now, I agree that giving him the bag at $45 million a year may have been a little steep, especially if you knew you were going to go quarterback in this draft. However, Kirk Cousins goes down, you bring Michael Penix in, it makes a lot of sense. It truly does. So that was the big hitter. I love Joe Alt going number 5. A lot of people saw the Chargers taking Alt at number 5. Even our mock draft winner did not have Joe Alt going number 5. A lot of our mock drafts actually did not. Everybody had him going where I did, which was Tennessee at 7. But that was a big move. Eagles landing Quinyon Mitchell at number 22. I think the Steelers, landing that offensive tackle there at number 20 was absolutely massive. And just a great draft overall. As an Eagles fan, A+, I give them. I mean, I don't know what anybody else gives them. The best drafts were by far, in my opinion, Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. Chicago, I'm not sold on Caleb Williams, so I just really can't give that ranking. But it was a great draft. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Hopefully your teams got better, not worse. You never know. You never know how these things go. But real fast, what I'm going to do at this point is I am going to bring on our mock draft winner. He wants to come on. He's actually, because Freight Train is starting a new job, he's 2 hours away from his home, so he wasn't able to make it in time. But I do have my buddy, also the mock draft winner, coming on tonight. And he wants to talk a little bit about football. Doesn't know a ton, so don't test him too much, or please in the comment section, feel free to ask him whatever you want, and we'll watch him kind of shrivel up in his seat a little bit. But without further ado, our 2024 first annual mock draft winner of a $50 Visa gift card is actually Mr. Danny Santiago. Danny, how's it going, man?
Can't complain, Rich. Just getting out of work, sore as shit. So,
Well, limit the cursing a little bit, pal. Just a little bit.
I know it's a family show. Yeah, I'm not dropping the F-bomb. So
you want to drop F-bombs. I'll have to hook you up with the Triple B experience. Bubba and them guys are great. So I do all of my appropriate stuff here on my show, and then Bubba lets us all go loose on his. So whenever I need to get some curse words out live on air, I'm like, hey, Bubba, you got room for me? I'll be there in 5. But yeah, so you won the mock draft. I notified you a few hours ago. Nice $350.
Yeah, I know. I honestly was shocked. I was like, okay.
Well, what's funny is you don't know a lot about football. So hold on, my dogs are also participating in the episode today. So we have some secret guest hosts in the back. But yeah, I mean, you don't know a lot about football. So what did you? So I mean, I know you watched this show and you were commenting a little bit here and there, but what did you use because again, you don't. I think you're the perfect example of how anybody can win a mock draft. Like not being a dick, but I think you're the perfect example of how anybody can win one because it's all a guess, right? I mean, so what did you use? Were you using like different like reporters or like what were you looking at?
Well, I was going, a couple different places. I went CBS Sports just to see, names, and then like Caleb Williams, for example. Didn't know much about him. I knew he went to USC. Never saw him. So, I went on YouTube, looked up his highlights. I'm like, oh, okay, I was like, oh, this kid's pretty good. But yeah, and then FanDuel, I actually won some money because it was a mock draft.
Oh,
And if you
nice.
got it, I think whatever you put down, they matched it like $1 or something. So I won like
Nice.
$10 or so.
So, and just to share this, and I'll put this up on the screen here. So, Danny actually won with only 8. That's how crazy this year's draft was. I think last year I did a mock draft with a different show, and the winner ended up having like 14 or 15 right because it was such an easy year. Like some years are very predictable, some not so much. So, Danny got 8 in total, and just to share what those were, I have them listed. Here we go. So, picks 1 through 4, he got them all right. He pretty much, we also talk all the time. I know he copied my first 4. Then he got, let's see, you went Williams, Daniels, May, Marvin Harrison. You did not get Joe Alt, but
No.
you did have McCarthy to the Vikings. You had Knicks to the Broncos, and you did actually pick Neighbors to the Giants, which I was surprised about. And yeah, I mean, and then Quinyon Mitchell to the Eagles. Being an Eagles fan, I'm sure you saw a lot of reports that the Eagles wanted him really bad. So was that more of a wishful pick, or was that like, I'm very confident with this pick?
I feel like that was a little bit of both. Like it was a
Okay.
wishful, and like, but they definitely made the right move by doing that.
Yeah, so 8 picks right was the winner. The runner up, there was a runner up, and it was funny. They were actually the last form submitted. It was like a total of 7, and the guy actually reached out. There was a couple different guys that were like, "Hey, can I send you a new one?" And I was like, "Technically, no, but as long as you do it before the draft starts, it's fine." So they sent him to me at like 7:30, and he ended up his first one would have been like 2. His second one he would have got like 7. But yeah, I mean the one. So a couple of those submissions. I mean, we had some that only got 1 correct out of the whole thing. They got Caleb Williams number 1, and that was it. Like they had May going 2 and Daniels going 3. They had Neighbors going number 4, Harrison going like 6. And I was like, okay. They had Philadelphia taking what Cooper DeJean, which we were supposed to take, which we ended up getting both. We got him in the second round instead. But yeah, some people got 1 right, some got 2, some got 3. So when I was looking through yours, I told you to submit one. I'm like, dude, it's a free $50. You're like, I don't really give a damn about these things. I'm not going to win it. So when you was like, all right, he cheated. Like this man rubbed a magic 8 ball that Shane had on the other show, but you must have been rubbing a magic 8 ball or something because how you pulled off 8 picks is still beyond me.
I mean, trust me, I've done it with football. I've done it with wrestling. I mean, I know more about wrestling, but there's times on PLEs I just kind of go like, who the hell I think I'm gonna win. I'm like, okay, if they win, they win. If they don't, okay.
But what you did was very similar to what a lot of people do for mock drafts, which is why I think it's a good example to people. Like, hey, do a mock draft, have fun with it because you could be a nobody and get a ton right. One guy got like a bunch of random things. I mean, there's some people that made some wild calls that I never would have even thought of that ended up being right, and they got like 2 right total. But the 2 that they got right, I'm like, or like the 2 aside from Caleb, I'm like, how the hell did you come up with that? Like, where the hell did you get that from? But it was actually really fun to go through them. So. I was pretty happy with it this year. Congratulations on the $50 gift card. Now, to get away from the mock draft a little bit, so again, I'm going to say this one last time just in case people start roasting you. Danny is not the all-around encyclopedia of NFL knowledge, but he started watching a lot more since we became, buddies or whatever, and he started watching a little bit more here. But still, limited knowledge for the most part. I think it's a fair assessment. So your original favorite team before we met was who was it again?
Well, it wasn't a team per se, but it was Peyton Manning and the Colts.
It was a team.
I more or less watched it for Peyton. I was like, oh, this guy is really good. I was like, I like this guy. And then when they beat the Bears in the Super Bowl, I was like, yeah. But I wasn't gonna jump the bandwagon and go to the Broncos just because Peyton went to the Broncos. So
what you're saying is you were a bandwagon hopper for a little bit there.
When I first started watching football, yeah, pretty much. I just kind of like saw that he won the Super Bowl, how good it was. I know a lot of people said it was crappy Super Bowl. I agree to an extent, but all in all, I
It,
thought it
it
was fun.
It probably was one of the most boring ones I've ever watched in my entire life, just for the record. And thanks for tuning in, John Collier, big Pittsburgh Steelers guy to the show it for a long time. And thank you, Michael Kaufman. Also, he was on my pool league on Tuesday nights. So thanks for tuning in and showing the show some love, man. Much appreciated. Unfortunately, you're watching it from the wrong place. You got to follow NFL Elite Banner instead, so I can actually see these things pop up on stream. Nonetheless, much appreciated. So, couple questions for you. So we're gonna have a couple. I didn't tell you to plan for this before the show started because I don't like to do that. I'd rather put you on a hot plate and do it that way. So aside from that, so we know Peyton Manning was your guy. Obviously, you became an Eagles fan based on me talking about the Eagles probably 23 hours and 45 minutes a day. And those 14 minutes were only me taking a deep breath in between long sentences. Not even sleep, I don't think sometimes. But so obviously not being a huge football fan, I'm always curious though. So what do you like the most with football? Are you a big offensive guy? Are you a defensive guy? I mean, what do you like a lot of points? I mean, when you watch a football game, what's the perfect? You love wrestling, like you said, and I know you've told Bubba before like what your favorite wrestling kind of is. But what is your ideal football game? Is it a game with a ton of scoring or crazy highlight plays, or I mean, what is your ideal game?
My ideal game would have to be more. I lean more towards offense. I know offense wins games, defense wins championships. I get that, but I always find like more excitement in offense than I do defense. I just
That's fair.
like a deep ball, like a 34-yard to Devontae Smith or AJ Brown. It's like, oh Jesus Christ.
So yeah, I'm not a big offensive guy. I mean, I come on the show all the time and I bash offenses. I think they cater. I think the NFL caters too much to the typical offense. But so now, as an Eagles fan, out of curiosity, who is so obviously you're wearing? I think that's what an Alshon Jeffrey jersey right there. Is that what you're
Yeah.
wearing? Oh Jesus
That's
Christ!
pretty good. And you couldn't even really see the numbers.
I saw enough. It's a Super Bowl jersey. I could tell that when the way you had the camera initially, there was a little bit of a break right below the top line of the 7. So I was like, I think it's a 1 and a 7, and it was either him or Carson, but that's way too wide for an 11. So
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: so who was obviously you're an Eagles fan like I am. So Super Bowl year, if you think back to 2017, who was your favorite Eagle on that team at the time?
See, that's a tough question because
Got to answer.
like no. It's just I feel like that's a tough question because everybody on the Eagles did really good that year.
Don't matter who's your favorite.
But I would have to go with Alshon Jeffrey.
That's shameful.
Why is
Absolutely
it,
shameful.
why? Why is it shameful?
I wasn't a big Alshon fan. I truly was. I mean, listen, I respect the man for helping us win a championship, but like same thing with Nick Foles. I appreciate him for bringing a Super Bowl, but I still can't stand that guy. The
I
whole
can't stand him.
the whole big man part Nick thing got on my nerves. I mean, I got absolutely tired of hearing that. I was there when the Eagles won Super Bowl. I went down to Philadelphia, and that's all you heard for like 4 hours straight was BDN, BDN, B. I'm like, guys, you got to stop calling another grown man that, dude. That's so weird. And like, here's like this big ass, like 6'5" dude. He's all jacked, and he's out there drinking his he's like out there drinking like Jack and Coke, and he's like BDN. I'm like, you too? What has gotten into you people around here? I swear to God, it was something in the water, man. Like they all drank the same water at the same time, and I have no idea what that was all about. But yeah. So I mean, so favorite player of the Super Bowl was obviously Alshon. For me, it would probably end up being Jason Kelsey. I just love Jason Kelsey. Hence the jersey choice.
That's why
not as flashy of a player, obviously. So, but okay. So now let me ask you this: so the current roster as it is, I mean, obviously it's changed almost 100% almost since 2017. Who is your favorite current Eagle? Like when you watch an Eagles game, who do you want to see the most?
I lean more towards always watching AJ Brown.
AJ Brown.
I feel like to an extent he reminds me somewhat of a Alshon Jeffrey. So like I lean no, I know AJ is way better.
The only thing they have in common is they were both a number 1 receiver. That's all they have in common. They both played the same position and they were both the number 1 guy. But
But that's why, like I just lean towards him. Like I see like Hurts just throwing straight to him. That's his go-to guy.
Yeah, that's why we lost last year because he wouldn't stop forcing the ball. He was trying to force a square peg into a circle hole. It
Yeah.
didn't work very well. But yeah, I mean that's a fair one. I mean, so you're not buying. So let me ask you this: Are you buying the Saquon Barkley hype, or are you not really sold on Saquon Barkley yet?
I'm really not sold on it per se right now, only because like I know I've talked to a lot of people at work, even one of the guys at the gas station, he knows I had my Eagles hat on. He's like, Saquon Barkley? He's like, man, he's washed up. And I was like, kind of. I mean, I did check his stats. I mean, his best year was what? 2017, 2018, or something like that.
Like
It was like,
2016, maybe.
yeah,
Yeah,
it was
something
like
like that.
1,000 rushing yards or
No, I think it
something.
was. I think it was 2018. I can't remember. I mean, he
Yeah.
had a couple. He had really good years outside of injury. I mean, that's the thing is it comes down to can he stay healthy, and that's again the best ability is availability. That's always the thing.
Yeah.
Um, and speaking of availability, by the way, I'm gonna be a little cheesy here. Also, make sure you guys check out AJB Sports Shop for everything that you could possibly look for. They have all kinds of stuff available in stock at the moment. So yes, that was meant to be very cheesy and very punny. But no, seriously, from dog attire to kids attire to bibs, binkies, bottles, hand towels, car magnets, you name it. AJB Sports Shop has it. Awesome guy over there. And I'm going to continue to shout this guy out as long as I possibly can. I mean, again, for all you Steelers guys that watch the show, terrible towels are like $7. And when Freight Train looked them up, they go for like $14 on NFL.com. So he's a really good priced out guy. He's not looking to make 8,000% profit on you, just looking to make a couple bucks if he can. So $7 is all it is pretty much for those. But long story short, great prices, great value, great product. At AJB Sports Shop and Collectibles. Find them on Facebook and on the internet at ajbsportshop.com. But that being said, so yeah, I mean, I was gonna give the shout out for these guys. I didn't mean to do that. Oopsies. But yeah, so I mean, so obviously, big Eagles fan, former Colts fan, bandwagon jumper based on Super Bowl performances. So I'm guessing you were probably a Brady fan at some point.
Oh,
Um,
no, 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 no. Don't even get it twisted. Listen, there were so many people, like you said, your show's professional. There were so many people riding him that just, no. He was so overrated.
I don't know, seven Super. I don't know. I mean, I don't like the guy, but I respect the guy. I mean, 7 Super Bowls is still whether you cheat or not to get them is still pretty impressive. Because you still got to put yourself in position to win the Super Bowl. There's back then there's 16 games a year. And then you got a couple playoff games you got to win. Anything can happen in those games. So whether you cheat in a couple or not, I mean, to go the whole distance and win it is pretty impressive. But so is that your most hated player of all time? Is it Tom Brady? Because you're calling him overrated. The guy got 7 rings. I feel like there has to be some animosity there.
Yeah, I think, it's just, first of all, it's number one. Like I said, everybody's, riding him, riding his coattails, whatever. And just then my father, he's a Patriots fan. My stepdad, he's a Patriots fan. I don't know. He's just so overrated. Not really anything in particular per se, but
So I'm turning that light off. That glare that was shooting out of that room was like, oof.
oh, okay, yeah. At least it wasn't just me. I was trying, like you moved your arm. I was like, oh, okay.
No, I was getting blinded by that light coming out of the corner of my screen. No, but yeah, I hear that. So I mean, I don't know. I hate every Dallas Cowboy if that counts. So I have 53 least favorite players every year and like 12 least favorite coaches and a least favorite owner every year. Just automatic. Doesn't even matter who. They can sign Jalen Hurts tomorrow and he's automatically on my shit list. Doesn't matter. If you're a Cowboy, a Giant, or a Commander, I really can't effing stand you, and I don't care. I don't care how good of a guy you are. I don't care if you donate your entire paycheck to charity and save children and homeless people. I don't care. If you're a Cowboy, I'll never like you, never respect you. Doesn't matter. Anyway, it's a little hateful there, but I mean, it's not that serious. I mean, truth be told, if it was like kids and stuff, I'd have a really hard time not like clapping for the guy for 30 seconds and act like I never did it. But I mean, so as far as everything goes on, so I know you're not a big football guy, but when it comes to when you watch, so obviously you don't watch a ton of football, I'm sure, but when you are watching like off season, do you watch any of this stuff? Like, do you watch free agency? Do you watch any draft coverage a lot of the time? I mean, what is your schedule when it comes to watching football, or is it just
Well,
regular season playoffs? That's it.
well, I'll watch like the combine, the
That makes one
draft
person.
for Well, sometimes like I'll just put on YouTube TV and then it's on.
Ladies and gentlemen, we finally found the one viewer that ESPN's had for the last 2 years to actually watch the combine. I knew that I thought they were just making it up. I thought nobody watched it, but apparently that one was pretty honest. I can't watch the combine. It's an absolute joke. Half of them don't even show up. They don't even do anything. It's like a bunch of guys that you'll never hear of ever again that just run up and down the field. It's like, shut the hell up, man. It doesn't matter. Suck. Terrible.
If it's on TV, I don't even bother changing it.
It's on TV. I turn the TV off. It's like a Dallas Cowboys Super Bowl for me. There's no point in ever watching. I'll just turn it right off. Oh, then again, I'll never see them in one.
Yeah, you'll never see that happen.
It won't matter. So I mean, I'm trying to think here because again, I'm not trying to put you too much on the hot plate because obviously, I don't want to. I'm not here to roast you. Again, Super Bowl. Congratulations on winning the mock draft. I brought you on here to celebrate that with you. I don't get a ton of money. I'm gonna leave you solo here for a second if my dogs don't stop here. Watch this. Ready? Watch me mouth all these terrible words. Shut the fuck up and get down. Oh, I didn't mute. Oops. All right. Well, that's a one-off. I'll get away with that one. Hopefully the Facebook criteria doesn't kill me for that. But no, man. So I mean, obviously to keep you off the hot plate, though. I mean, obviously you're a football fan. You're an Eagles fan. I always love an Eagles fan, so I won't bash you anyway. If you were a Cowboys fan or something, I'd have a hell of a lot more fun with this because I'd have all kinds of topics of conversation to create here. So again, $50 for the win. You watch the draft finally. I know you don't really watch it very often, but I guess having a chance to win $50 is almost like a Super Bowl pool kind of thing. It's, I wonder if I can win this crap. So when you got to the first 10 picks, now obviously at that point you'd had 5 or 6. Because obviously Bo Nix didn't come until 12, and Quinyon Mitchell wasn't until 22. So at that point you must have had 6 picks, I believe it is. You would have gotten McCarthy right there at 10. So you were at 6 out of 8. Were you feeling really confident at that point? Did you think you were going to get more than 8? Did you think you were going to get less than 8? What was your expectation as you were kind of watching?
Honestly, when they called the names, I just kind of was like I said, I'll watch my language. I was like, oh crap! I was like, I marked on my paper. I was like, oh, I actually got one. It was just kind of had the checklist, and I'm just like, but come on.
But you went 6 for 10. I mean, that's not bad. I mean, you went to Dunze, which was a good pick at 9. No, I'm sorry, not him at 9. You went Neighbors at 6. I mean, for the Giants.
Yeah.
You got 5 wrong because I mean, you went with a wide receiver. I think you went a Dunze at 5 is what I think you did. I think you had him for the Chargers. But no, I mean, you were 6 for 10 when it got to the 10th pick. So I mean, did you think you were going to go on a hot streak for the whole thing, or did you have a feeling that some picks were about to go haywire and you probably weren't going to be able to go too deep?
I kind of felt where I was at was pretty much the extent of what I got. I didn't go into CBS. I didn't go into 5 different websites and see everybody.
Hey, David Jones, thanks for tuning in, pal.
But I was just So once I hit the 8 mark, I was like, okay. I was like, yeah.
Well, 8 was pretty much the end. I mean, you hit number 8 at pick number 22 out of 32, so it was pretty much near the end. And I don't think anybody got some of those picks right. I mean, I would love to see anybody's mock draft that had some of these guys on it because I was Michael Penix Jr. going to the Raiders at 8 threw me off. I was not ready for that. Joe Alt at 5. I had Neighbors. I had Neighbors at 5 going to the Chargers, and I had Joe Alt go at number 7 to Tennessee. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? From picks 5 through 8, I just got really lost. I had no idea what was happening.
Well, I mean, on my list, as you've seen, I actually put Alt at 11 because I was like, oh, an OT, and then the Rams, the Chargers of all places. I was like, but, to boost his morale and protect Justin Herbert, I mean.
Well, that's the problem with the Chargers is Herbert gets hurt all the time. I mean, that poor guy can't stand upright for longer than 3 minutes without having his legs taken out. I mean, I was like Aaron Rodgers' magical $35 million, 34 seconds last year. He got paid $1 million per second last year.
I know, I've read about that.
That has to be one of the highest grossing contracts of all time. I could do that. I mean, low key, I have no talent throwing the ball at all, but I can go back there and have my leg busted up in 34 seconds for $35 million. Sign me up. I'll pay for the best doctor ever. I'll be done with therapy in 6 months, and I'll be back to living my normal life with $35 million in the bank. Yeah. I would stop selling insurance right this second. I'd be calling my boss right now. Hey, sorry, I'm not coming back. But But yeah, so I mean, that's so when I was looking at them, so I didn't look at the mock drafts live because there was way too many of them. I was not going to sit here and have like a draft board with a ton of mock drafts. But it was funny because as I was going through them, I'm like, okay, let's just go one at a time. I'm like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, X, X, X. I did a lot of X's, by the way. I think I had more X's than Taylor Swift by the time the first 15 picks were done. I was just like, Jesus, X, 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 X. I'm like, did anybody get any of these right? As far as I'm going through, now I didn't get to yours until almost last. So when I was going through them, I thought 7 won it because I mean, for a while I went on like 7 in a row or 8 different submissions in a row where they had like 4 or less. Like it was literally every single one was 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2. And I'm like, Jesus Lord. And then I got a 7, and I was like, oh boy, this guy got it. This is over. So I'm going through, I'm like, all right, 7's going to be the winner. I'm just going to look. I'm going to look through the rest. I'm going to be fair. There's like 5 left. And I think you might have been like 2 after. And I was like, oh, crap, he pulled off 8. There's no way. There's no way. So I'm like, all right, let me double check. So I'm sitting here talking to Freight Train, like, hey, can you do me a favor and look at this and just make sure that I'm not just seeing things? He was like, dude, he really got 8. I was like, there's no way. I mean, the thing is, like, some of the ones that you got are obvious to an extent, but nobody else got more than 7. I mean, in the entire thing. So I was like, okay, well, shit, good for him. Somebody went 7. The second to last one I looked at was 7 again. And at first I was like, well, I think he got Danny beat. I think he got him beat. But the funny thing is, I'm pretty sure you guys had all 1 through 4 the exact same. You both had Neighbors at 6. You both had McCarthy going to the Vikings at 10. You both had Bo Nix at 12 to the Broncos. The only difference is you had Quinyon Mitchell at 22. He had the Eagles taking Cooper DeJean at number 22, which, again, we got him anyway. And that was really the winner. The winner for you was literally the Eagles pick at number 2 because you didn't get any right after 22.
No.
That was your last correct answer. His last correct one would have been Bo Nix at number 12. So he didn't get any right for the last 20 picks. And I was like, dude, at first I'm looking at the thing. I'm like, oh, boy, he has the same streak Danny had. And then it just kind of went dead after that. Once 12 was it, that was it. I mean, that was his last one. Had he gone Quinyon Mitchell, I'd probably have to bring you both on here and say, hey, guys, we're going to have to split this down the middle and give $25 gift cards to both of you. But now you won it just by an Eagles pick. So that's why I asked you originally, was that more wishful or was that confidence? Because you literally won on a pick that not a lot of people thought was going to happen. Because remember, you had to get the pick right in the right spot. So you had to pick them at least in the right area. So for example, the team didn't matter. So if, for example, McCarthy would have gotten drafted, 10th to the Steelers, you still would have been right. You still had him at number 10. But you have to get him in the right spot. So the Eagles were rumored to be trading up to number 12 the whole time. So some people were putting Quinyon Mitchell at number 12. You put him at 22. Nobody thought Quinyon Mitchell was falling number 22. So I guess you got lucky because you don't know any better. No. You probably had no idea who he was prior to the draft. So you're like, yeah, the Eagles like him. Everybody's talking about him. Yeah, he's going to go to Philadelphia. Just put him at number 22.
Like I said, you gave me the list of all the people that were rumored there. And then, like I said, CBS Sports. And I just kind of threw those together. You were like, just do it for the hell of it. I was like, okay, whatever.
I'm like, dude, it's $50. Like, I'm tired. Just got home from work. I don't want to do it. I'm like, dude, it's $50 for free. You win it. You get a gift card. You put some gas in your car. It makes it all worth it. You want to grab a case of beer? There you go. $50 and a tank of gas. You get beer and a tank of gas. Can't beat it. But no, I mean, that's awesome. I mean, so again, I mean, when it was you, I told Freight, I'm like, man, people they're probably gonna think this is rigged. I said, but I can't even make this shit up because it's Danny of all people. And I mean, I can't even make that up. Because out of anybody, if I had to sit here and come up with somebody that would make sense, I would have found somebody like John Collier, like, yo, can you come on the show and like make this up? Because like you'll be able to fake it till you make it. And I'm like, oh man, I got to have no Freight Train too. I'm like, I got to bring Danny on here by himself and somehow make people believe that this man really picked 8 correct, and he truly did. I'll even release it if I have to. So I'm like, wow. But yeah, so one hell of a mock draft for you. $50 in your pocket. What are you gonna do with the $50? I mean, I know it's a lot of money. You can't spend it all in one place.
I have a 6-cylinder Lexus that takes about $50 in gas. So that's probably what it's going for.
So one tank of gas. There you go. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. It pays. So the show is paying for you to go to and from work. I call that charity. I'm just saying. See, we can be charitable on the show every once in a while. But yeah, so I mean, to get off topic here, I'm just gonna leave you off to the side here for a second. But a big thing I want people to realize too is, again, like, it does not take a genius to win. Nobody. I'm not going to announce names of people who only had one. I'm not here to roast you. It's all about having a good time. And again, thank you to Danny and everybody else who submitted those mock drafts. It made the draft a lot more fun for me because when it was over, it was like, oh wait, we still got some competition that has to kick off. We still have some mock drafts to dig through, and we got some picks to look at. It was a lot of fun for me and Freight. We want to do a giveaway as early as we can. Because obviously when we're starting a new show, you guys tune in, you're watching a raw product. We're not obviously perfect yet. We're not where we want to be. So it's like a give back. It's like a thank you to you guys for rocking with us, through a time where I know it's not as pretty as the McAfee show, or, we're not the Kelseys, we're not Rich Eisen, we're not experts. So, the $50 giveaway was just supposed to be a thank you to you guys and make it a little bit more fun for the draft. It makes it more fun to watch, more fun to follow. I think you would say the same thing when you're watching the Super Bowl. If you don't care about either team that's in it, what do? You do polls. Why? It makes it at least there's a lucrative chance. There's a chance I can win some money, so now I care. But yeah, so it was a great time for us. Hopefully it was a great time for you guys as well. Matthew Giacapo, who's a Patriots fan, actually just chatted in the comments. I tried to message after they picked Cooper DeJean, saying the Eagles had the best defensive backs drafted in this class, but just wanted to say that good class for your team. Mitchell was the stud, shut down, does everything well. I agree, Matt. I mean, I had Cooper DeJean as a first-round talent. I had Quinyon Mitchell going in the top 15. I had DeJean going to Philadelphia at 22. Had you told me before the draft that we were going to land both of them by pick 40, I would have called you high. I probably would have busted your chops quite a bit. But no, it was a phenomenal draft by the Eagles. And by the way, Matt, not the worst draft for the Pittsburgh Steelers, for the New England Patriots as well. I'm not sold on Drake May. However, I do think that he's going to be a lot more productive in New England than Mac Jones was. I don't think that's saying much either. But I mean, I think he's a day one starter for you guys. Hopefully he pans out. Hopefully he's better than his predecessor, Sam Howell, because Sam Howell was absolutely terrible. But yeah, man, absolutely exciting draft as a Philadelphia Eagles fan. Every pick I love. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is coming back home. I saw the behind the scenes where Lori was talking to him and said, "Hey, man, I think I met you when you were 2, 3, 4 years old. I loved your mom." But I do want to announce one fun stat about this Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Ready for this thing? You're going to laugh at this, but it's a Cowboys stat. It's never a good thing if it's a Cowboys stat. My favorite thing. So Jeremiah Trotter Senior, played for the Philadelphia Eagles in the early 2000s, right? Created a legacy for himself. If you walk around Philadelphia, he's probably a top 10 Eagle of all time if you ask a lot of people. People loved him. Love Jeremiah Trotter. So we just drafted his son, 5th round, right? Jeremiah Trotter Jr. out of Clemson. I saw a stat today or yesterday, and it said Jeremiah Trotter made Pro Bowls and made a legendary career in the city of Philadelphia. Then he had a son and raised his son for 22 years after his legacy in Philadelphia was over. So basically what we're trying to say is he built an entire legacy, went to Pro Bowls, raised his kid, trained his kid went to college, played football, got drafted all before the Dallas Cowboys made another NFC championship game. That is absolutely incredible that we have two generations of a family going through an entire college and one through an NFL career, and Dallas has still yet to get back. Let's put it this way. Jeremiah Trotter Sr. was still in college the last time the Dallas Cowboys made the NFC championship game. Now he's 50-some years old. His son is now playing for the Philadelphia Eagles, and Dallas still has not been back to a championship game. Thought that was a pretty awesome stat for the record. Loved it when I saw it, and I've been telling everybody who's willing to listen to that stat for the last week now, or 2 days now. But we are going to cut this episode a little bit shorter than usual. Obviously, Freight couldn't make it. Danny's not a big football guy. He's please do me a favor. Don't hold me on here hostage. Again, we want to bring him on, congratulate him. Usually the idea would have been to have you on for 5 or 10 minutes and kind of just let you go about your way. But thank you for rocking with me for 30 minutes or so. I know it's not easy to do when you're I don't know what the hell's going on here. How do I do this whole thing? I didn't really watch the draft. I knew who any of these guys were. I'm still watching highlights of pick 7. I haven't made it through the 32 yet. I think when we were talking tonight, I think you said you made it 7 picks in.
Yeah.
So yeah, feel free to skip the offensive linemen. They're great. They really are, but you can skip those if you want. If you're a flashy guy, you like to see big plays, you're not going to see that with offensive linemen. But if you want to see some badass pancake blocks, though, there is some good ones. But thank you guys. This has been episode 18. We have now been doing this for quite a bit. Obviously, the draft counted as 2 episodes, so it's really episode 17 if you count it from a week-by-week basis. So we've been going strong here for about 4.5 months now. And again, thank you to you guys for following. One last shout out here. even though Freight Train is not here, I do want to give a shout out to the sponsor here, Builder Bros Construction. Remember, if you register on their website, builderbros.org, they are giving away a free roof. You heard that correctly. No catches, no credit cards, nothing like that. They are trying to do a free giveaway. They do it every year, Christmas in July. So in July, they will be giving away a free roof. Doesn't matter if your house is 5,000 square feet or 1,000 square feet, or if you live in a shed. If you do, I'm really sorry to hear that. But if you do, it doesn't matter. Free roof is a free roof. You want to lower your insurance, you want to make your house safer, you want to get ready for next spring, a free roof is where it's at. Builders Bros Construction is the place to go. They are licensed in Pennsylvania and in Ohio. If we get a lot of followers from New York or New Jersey, feel free to let the show know. We can reach out and see about what the potential is of them getting a license elsewhere. Before we get off the show, actually, it looks like we have one more person popping up here last second. We have buzzer beater, Mr. Shane Statmiller, but he's not ready yet. We're going to hold off on that. I'm waiting till I see his picture pop up. Gail, thanks for tuning in. We are in an interesting week where my co-host is not here and Danny is still in the blank. Danny, if you don't remember, Gail is the bartender when you shot the cue ball. When you shot the cue ball out of the bar that one time, and I think she like screamed at you for like 4 minutes. She was like, "What the hell? How did you possibly manage to do that?" I think you might be the only person to still do that to this day. By the way, pretty damn impressive, I gotta say. That cue ball went pretty damn far.
And the fact that it landed and stayed where it was.
Well, the thing that she was worried about, and I don't blame her for this, the thing that she was worried about was that cue ball falling and hitting one of those firefighters or a passerby. That's a liability and a half. I mean, that ball, as heavy as it is, falling and cracking the top of your noggin, yeah, that's going to hurt, man. But, yeah, so we got one more guest guy popping. I want to hear what his take is on his squad over there. And, of course, you might have saw his brother Punksy Pete a week or two ago. But we have now we have the special Kelsey, by the way. This is what we call him, Danny. This is the special Kelsey. As soon as we pop his face up on screen, you got to think about it. I want you to look at him. Not in a weird gay way kind of thing, but, like, just look at him for a second and ask yourself, it's kind of strange, his resemblance to Travis Kelce. But that being said, this is the Triple B field correspondent, also a very common guest here on the NFL Elite Banter, Mr. Shane Statmiller.
Hey, guys, I'm rocking my West Virginia gear. My show ran long. We had some guests from other schools talking about conference realignment. But let's talk about, your Eagles had a really good draft. I mean, there were some fantastic guys to pick from. It seemed like there was an overabundance of talent this year rather than 3 years ago where I thought it was underwhelming. But
yeah. I'll tell you what, I felt like with this draft, and I'm sure you probably, I know we talked about this a little bit on Bubba's show as well, there was so much talent left over from round one. I feel like this year there was 2 first rounds, 2 second rounds, 2 thirds. Even the 7th, I mean, look at the 6th round. Brendan Rice going in the 6th round was not projected at all. I had him as a late 3rd, early 4th round pick is where I had him.
Yes, sir.
And the fact that he fell to 6th round blew my mind.
Yeah.
Me and a lot of others, even Freight Train, even a lot of people that were sending in mock drafts were asking if we were going to do a 2nd round. They were giving us some random picks, but everybody had Jeremiah Trotter Jr., for example, as a 3rd round, 4th round guy. One of the best. Some people said maybe 2nd round. He was the best linebacker in the draft.
He was in the Steelers kind of mock draft conversation.
Yeah, a lot of teams had him as a 2nd round pick. A lot of fans wanted him in the 2nd round. I wanted him in the 2nd round. I like a lot. I got a little nervous. We took Will Shipley out of Clemson in 4, and I'm like, damn, I really wanted Marvin. I wanted Michael. I wanted Trotter, and 5th round, man. Like I'm like, this draft was insane. I mean, this draft was absolutely mind blowing. So for you though, aside, I'm gonna do the same thing ESPN's been doing. Aside from Michael Penix at 8, because that's by far the most shocking pick of the entire night.
Yeah.
So to eliminate that, what was the most shocking? Even if it's the later round, even if you want to talk about 3rd round, whatever. What was the most shocking pick in this draft for you? Whether they went really late or they went too early. I mean, what surprised you?
Well, I'll talk about the Steelers. The most shocking is that they drafted. Two cornerbacks. They couldn't be any more different physically.
Yep.
And the one they drafted ahead of the other. I'm not going to throw too much shade, but the one went to WVU, the other went to Texas. He didn't do that great at Texas, but physically he fits the mold. He's 6'3",
wow.
210, and
That's
the other guy, and the other guy's 5'10". They say he's 5'11". But the other guy, the West Virginia guy, played in the Big Ten and then had a fantastic year last year with, 4 interceptions, just a great bowl game,
Yeah.
And just very physical. And actually, I think he's going to draw some penalties because he's so physical. But, Steelers did well with getting some help on the offensive line. Really just got some blue collar guys. Got another West Virginia guy in the second round, Zach Frazier, who was a wrestler
I like him
in
a
high
lot.
school. So, if you haven't heard about him, ladies and gentlemen, the only 2 wrestling matches he ever lost in his life, he was in 9th grade, and he ended up still that year winning the state championship. He won 4 state championships as a wrestler, heavyweight. That's crazy in itself.
And for the record, just to shout your show out real fast, guys, what's the name of your show there?
Steelers Dynasty Podcast.
No, not that one. The college one that you do.
The Big 12. It's the Big 12 fan zone on the voice of college football. So
the reason why I wanted to shout that out is in case anybody's wondering why the hell does this guy know so much about college football? This guy lives for college football. So how I'm a football guy, he's very similar, but he's symmetric with college.
Well, you say that, but it's like loving something that's killing you. Yeah. And the fact that the NIL came into existence and there's all this conference realignment, I just don't. It's just like, I don't know. It's like watching an old girlfriend turn tricks.
Yeah. Do you think it's hurting? Do you think it's hurting college football?
Yeah, it's not the college football I fell in love with.
Now, I never thought it should have gotten taken in the first place. I've been wanting to get people's takes on this. I was going to ask Freight Train this tonight too. Reggie Bush and his Heisman Trophy. Do you think he should get that back now?
Yes.
I thought he should have never lost it. I agree. I'll tell you what. I love what Johnny Manziel did, and it's very rare that anybody says they love anything about Johnny Manziel, but I love what he did. I don't know if you saw it or not. He refused to go up on the stage with the rest of the Heisman winners until they gave Reggie Bush back his Heisman Trophy. He flat out said, he was like, I will no longer participate. He was like, one of the biggest sacrilegious things I've ever heard in my life was Reggie Bush no longer having the Heisman Trophy because he is by far, dude. The NIL deal that he would get in today's college market would be so astronomical. Caleb Willis would have to borrow money off them, and that's how much money Reggie Bush would make. I mean, it would be astronomical. Because I think people forget how explosive and dynamic and how talked about Reggie Bush was. In 2005, I think was the biggest year of his career, if I remember correctly. I mean, the way that we talked about that guy is like the same way we talked about Bo Jackson. I mean, it was like this phenom of a little bit different. Like, Bo was bigger, but Reggie was just so quick. He was so agile, versatile. He could run, catch, whatever it was. I mean, I just feel like him getting that taken from him is like absolutely awful.
You go back, you think of like Doug Flutie, Dan Marino, Eric Dickerson, who basically SMU went into collegiate prison, and the program went to shit because he took a gold Trans Am. Dan, if you haven't heard that, you Google it. It's pretty crazy. So this guy got this like 1980 Trans Am that was gold from a dealership, and that cost SMU like the program. Like the program was competitive year in and year out, and they just kind of went into the shadows. But those guys used to Pat White, Steve Slayton, Larry Fitzgerald.
Wow, you're pulling out some names right now, man.
Yeah.
Your name's
Randy Moss. Randy Moss would have made so much money. Jason Williams. You know
who I think would have got paid, and I say this, I still think it's a travesty that he was runner-up in the Heisman in 2000. LaDainian Tomlinson, when he was in TCU. And now what sucks for LaDainian was, and he's my favorite running back of all time, what sucks for him is TCU, people don't realize, I don't think, that TCU was not as glamorized back in the 90s or early 2000s.
It's a backwater school. It's a private, small-ass school.
I would say it was probably Andy Dalton's era when they first started getting a little bit of attention. Would you say it's about that time?
About the time that Boise State came into, they kind of traded coaches there. Yeah. When Boise State beat Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl, that Statue of Liberty, that's about the time TCU got a little bit of noise.
Yeah,
Texas Christian University, small private school. Yep. I think at that time they had like 4,000 students. Kind of about the size of a
scholarship, you'll never go. It's so expensive. Did you ever look and see what the?
It's like $40,000.
When I was a football player, I always wanted to go there just because LT did. And I remember the first time we had to do this thing in high school and middle school where we had to like pick our top 5 colleges, what we were going to do for work, what we were going to go for, how much the tuition was going to cost. They make you do all this stuff. Let's just say that it would have taken a lot of money to do 3 years, let alone 4 years of tuition at Texas Christian University. But no, I only made that a point because I think it's funny that like we talk about like guys like AP, which in my opinion was still one of my favorite college seasons of all time. You can talk about Ricky Williams back when he was in Texas. I mean, that guy was an absolute monster. He was chaotic. But, LT was never talked about in that same category, and it blows my mind because if you go back and you look at what he really did in that 2000 season, I mean, there's a reason why he went number 5 overall. There's a reason for that. And if you just look at the numbers, I think his biggest game of college was like 456 rushing yards, and I think it was like 6 touchdowns in one football game. 456 in 60 days. The guy was playing Madden. The guy was playing Madden on rookie difficulty and put all the sliders down where the speed was like 0 for all the defenders. And he just went by him. I mean, it's crazy, though, that you would take a Heisman from a guy like Reggie, though. And again, I love the names that you use. Steve Slayton came out. I haven't heard that name in a long time. He was a Houston Texan for a while. I think he was a Giant, too, if I remember. He was a running back, right?
Yeah.
Slayton was running back. Yeah, man, it's just a shame what they did to Reggie. I felt so bad. Same thing with, I compare that to Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame with baseball, but we'll stay away from that. That
breaks
blows my
heart
mind, too.
I mean,
that pisses
guy,
me off. If I have to compare that to college football, so I mean, obviously the Heisman's college football as well, but like if I have to compare that as well with a similar sport, and I know what happened, we're not going to get into the nitty gritty of it, but it's the same how I feel about all of his records being expunged, which is Joe Paterno in Penn State. I get what happened.
You can't take those
I
away from that guy.
I get what happened was terrible. There's no defending what happened.
Yeah, but he was so like naive. Not naive. He just kind of didn't think that way.
Yeah.
And I'm not like a huge Penn State fan. Okay.
I hate Penn State for this reason, actually. I hate it because of what happened to Paterno.
But you can't, okay, let me give you a Penn State story. So I think it was like when Kajana Carter played. Maybe it was like 97 or maybe 94. I can't remember.
He looked that name up whenever you get a chance. Kajana Carter, one of the biggest busts in NFL history.
He got
drafted by the Bengals, didn't he? I think it was the first round.
He was a really good college player. Didn't really turn into a great NFL player. Terrible. So they're playing Notre Dame at up in Happy Valley, freezing cold, and he just broke this cornerback's ankles, got around, escaped, broke a tackle. And the fans, I heard 2 fans say, can you believe Joe Pa called that play? He knew what was going to happen. That's how brainwashed the fans were.
Yep.
They thought Joe Paterno was this mad scientist who caused this freak athlete to do all this. No. That's the mindset they had. So they went from that to shitting all over the guy and taking his statue down.
No, the way the statue came down, and I saw a side-by-side. I don't know if you saw it or not. When it first happened, there was a side-by-side all over social media. They put what happened to Saddam Hussein's statue on one side of the image, and then they put what happened to Paterno's on the next side. They literally had it tied up with rope, and they were like pulling it down. And I'm like, are we literally calling Joe Paterno Saddam Hussein right now? Are we calling this man a war criminal? I mean, they expunged his national championship. They took all of his wins and losses away. So as of right now, if you were to look into the actual history book, I believe Joe Paterno doesn't even exist anymore. They just completely wiped him out. Like even at least with Pete Rose and Reggie Bush, their numbers still exist. The Hall of Fame's been evaded for Pete Rose, and obviously the Heisman was taken from Reggie. But imagine your entire career, 40 plus years of coaching, just poof, just magically goes away, just gone.
And I almost
then he dies 2 months later.
I almost went to Penn State. I went down to West Virginia, and the people are nicer and the girls are prettier. Yeah. And I'm going to throw some shade at Penn State. They do have a thing called the Penn State Creamery, and each one of their dining halls has like a fantastic like breakfast bar, and you can get this ice cream they make at Penn State.
Yep,
but that's why the girls, usually it's a freshman 15. Yep. Okay, West Virginia maybe it's 5 or 10, 15 pounds. It's the freshman 35 at Penn State. Those girls get big. Just
Well,
say
this
it.
episode's going to get pulled down my Facebook. So I'm like,
Let's go
misogyny.
Mountaineer.
Misogyny, fat shaming. No, but I'll tell you what, though. I will say, me and Rachel went up there one night. Her family's from State College. So actually, they had a farm about 20 minutes outside of, like,
Did you ever
Happy
get your
Valley.
ice cream
I did
from Penn
not.
State Creamery?
I did not.
You
I was
got
like,
it. They sell
we
in stores and stuff.
drove past it. We ended up going to
Uh-huh.
this we went to this little bar that had terrible live music where it was like people were putting microphones near speakers all night. But I will say, this place that we went was the perfect place for a cheapskate. I can't remember what the name of the place was, but you walked in, a pitcher of beer was like $4.
Yeah.
I got loaded because I'm like, dude, I've never heard of $4 pitchers in my life.
Yeah.
I'm gonna drink as many as I can, so I remember this forever. But no, I mean, so again, and it's nice having you on here because I was hoping that Freight would be here because I've yet to get his live reaction of what he feels with Pittsburgh. I talked to him this morning. Fun fact for anybody wondering where he is. I know that I was on a little bit of a rant last week. By no means, just for the record, Freight Train is not fired from the show. So just so you guys are aware, some people were inboxing me like, hey, what's going on? Freight Train is just as much a part of the show today as he was yesterday. But no, he does work 2 hours away now. He works he's up in Cleveland right now. So he's 2 hours from his house. He was still there as of 6:30. He's like, dude, I'm not going to make it in time. So to make his life a little bit easier. Yeah, but making his life a little bit easier, I'm like, dude, I'll figure it out. So and shout out Justin Beal. Thanks for the like on the video. Much appreciated. But so to get your final thoughts on the entire thing, so obviously I know I asked you a question. You want to talk Steelers first, which I appreciate that you did. So aside from Pittsburgh, aside from Philly, any one individual team,
Chicago did well.
You like Chicago, really?
Yeah, I think they did pretty well.
I disagree.
Okay, I want to hear your take. Why do you disagree? Other than Caleb likes to have purses.
There's two different. No, I'm not one of them. I think the Peyton and nails thing's a little extreme. Don't get me wrong, but no, I look at it from two different angles. They lost for two separate reasons. Like I can literally give you two different perspectives, and they lose on both. The first mistake that they made, and again, it's non-draft related, so it's not fair, which is why I'm not going to use this one. But the fact that you traded Justin Fields when you finally built an offense, you could have used that one pick, traded back to 3, got Marvin Harrison at 1, got an abundance of picks for that number 1 spot with either Washington or the Patriots. Let him go. I don't see Caleb Williams as a once-in-a-generation talent. I think at least with Justin Fields was winning football games. You guys had no right winning because your team was absolutely garbage fire. And he was still finding a way to get you to between 4-6 wins a year, which I don't think a lot of quarterbacks could have done. And I'm not even a Justin Fields fan. But you trade him, and now you have the first pick and the 9th pick, and you blow that whole thing, first of all. So to be fair, though, as far as the reason why I'm judging it as a loss, even if I leave that reasoning out of it, I do not believe in Caleb Williams. I do believe he's going to be a bust. I think 10 years from now, we're going to look back, and he's going to be in the same, maybe not as dramatically bad. I think he might be in that Vince Young category of had a phenomenal rookie year, had a decent sophomore year, and then all of a sudden he just wasn't the same anymore. But he's right there with the Leafs, the Jamarcus Russells. I see the talent in college, but the things that translate to the pros aren't there. The college game, yes, he kills that.
No, I agree. I don't think he's the same thing as Justin Fields.
Yeah.
So why would you try it again?
Yeah.
Now here's why I think they did well, because I expected them to shit the bed because they basically screwed up a wet dream because they should have done what you just said. So I take Caleb Williams, take number 1 pick out of there. After that pick, they got a kid from Washington. It's a fantastic.
I do like a Dunze. I do like a Dunze. He's good.
He's good. And then he got that kid from Yale. I can't say his last name. Amagaji or whatever.
Yeah, I can't pronounce it either. I was going to try to help you, but it's no.
Yeah, they got him. And then of course they. I don't understand them getting a punter, but oh well. They used a 4th round pick for a punter. But other than that, I expected them to totally shit the bed, and they did a lot better than I thought. So that's why I'm saying they did a good job. Now, Caleb Williams, what else are they going to do?
He's got the arm, the football IQ. I feel like Chicago did good by picking him.
No, I disagree though, because here's my reasoning though. So what I'm saying is, Dan, if you compare what they had with what they got, it's a loss.
It's the same. It's a wash.
It's either a wash or a loss. First of all, I would actually say I do think Fields is better than Caleb. Just in my opinion, I do like the way that he plays. I don't think he's great, but I think he was a very good leader of a team that needed one when they needed one. And I think had you brought in Keenan Allen, you would have brought in Marvin Harrison Jr. maybe at 3, got some more draft capital, which would have helped you this year or next year. And then on top of that, You would have also gotten whoever you wanted at 9, or you could have traded down again if you wanted to. You already got
They
your
could have
wide.
used that pick, that first round
I
pick.
thought they needed a defender. Me and Freight Train were talking about guys like maybe Dallas Turner. We talked about maybe Jared Verse. We talked about maybe Laiatu Latu out of UCLA. We discussed edge rushers because that's what we thought that they were missing. I mean, in my opinion, the time that Chicago was at their best is when Khalil Mack was at his best. When they still had Khalil Mack in Chicago, they were killing it because in the NFL today, you need edge rushers, man. That is the number one most valuable spot on defense. That's why Philadelphia loads them up every year. That's why we go after like 4 guys at a time. People always say, oh, why did the Eagles put so much money in their defense? Wonder why? We won the Super Bowl with a really bad secondary. People don't realize that. That secondary was not good in 2017. Jalen Mills and, Bradley Fletcher and random guys. They were not good. They didn't last much longer in the league after that. But our defensive line was so good that year. It didn't matter because you had such a hard time getting the ball out. But when I look at, again, Danny, the reason why I say that, though, is usually when you go for a number 1 pick, you had an awful year. You were dog crap. And your quarterback showed no signs of life, like maybe Daniel Jones, for example. And you have nothing there. With Fields, there was something. Yeah, it had to be built up. But if you look at his weapons, he hasn't really had any. Now you have an offense with Cole Kmet, one of the best ends in football right now. He's probably top 5. You have, Keenan Allen, who was one of the best receivers in the league for the last almost decade. You could have then kept Fields, and you could have landed a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. plus DJ Moore. Then you could have went ahead and either
you could have traded. You could have traded, like, say you traded your number 1 pick for the number 3 pick and got like another second round pick.
That's what I'm saying. You would have gotten another second
round pick, and you could have got a defensive stud.
You probably could have gotten a second and a 4th or a second and a 5th, depending on how it was valued, because it's so high up.
Yeah, because you could have. Not Pittsburgh, but sorry, the Bears would have done well with Drake May.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say that, Shane. My stepdad just texted me and said May is going to be the next Tom Brady.
No, he's not. Listen, I don't know about you, Shane. I know we've crapped on the ACC together a few times. I don't believe in those QBs, man. The ACC always has big arm talent. Like Sam Howell was really, really highly projected when he was in college. And if you ask me, Drake May followed the same system. So again, they look very similar on tape. Drake's probably a little bit more mobile. Don't get me wrong. Drake May's probably a little bit more mobile, maybe a little bit more accurate. But so many of the intangibles are not maybe identical, but in my mind, when I watch them, is just so similar. The fluid motion is so similar. The way they play is very similar. And we saw how that went in Washington. It didn't go so well. And the problem with New England is they still have a ton of holes. That team is not ready to win right away. And Drake May is going to have a really hard time finding out.
Yeah.
Now, Caleb has the best situation.
If Drake had like really good, he went to who picked May in the third for the third pick?
He went to New England.
Yeah. I mean, if they had some stud receivers, that might make it a little bit easier of a landing spot. But he's going to be drinking from the fire hose.
Now, let me ask you this. I haven't asked you this question yet on any show that we've been on. I have mine, and Danny, I would ask you, but I know you're kind of lost in the sauce. And by all means, I appreciate you sitting up there nice and quiet and chiming in when you can. I appreciate it. Danny's trying his best right now, so kudos. Pats on back now. Pats on back. No, I'm not insulting him. He tries. Like, he has been trying to learn the game a lot more over the last 10 years. He's getting a lot better at it, but still some growing pains. But my question for you is, out of this draft, in your opinion, just opinionated, it could be a 6th round, doesn't matter. Who do you think is the best quarterback prospect in this draft class this year? When you look back 5 years from now, who is the guy you're going to say, oh my God, that guy is phenomenal? Who is that guy?
Oh, I'm going to have to think a bit. I mean,
I can tell you mine and give you a little cheat on what I picked.
Yeah, go ahead. You can give me yours, but because I'm trying to think like Jaden Daniels. He doesn't really.
My favorite quarterback, and the reason why he's my favorite quarterback is the things that carry to the pros really well is what he did really well, which is what I love about his game.
Okay.
My favorite pick. I think we did talk about this a while back on the college show because I was always talking about him all the time. Bo Nix out of Oregon at number 12 at Denver.
Yeah, Bo Nix.
I had that on my mock, by the way. So did you, Danny. You had him at number 12.
If you think with Bo Nix, okay, I'm going to tell you, this is why I was thinking Penix, and I thought, no, Bo Nix. Bo Nix is a guy you'd rather tell someone, instead of saying sick him, you'd rather have to pull him off.
Yeah.
And he's like that with passing. Might be. He's a little bit of the Brett Favre, likes to really, throw when he probably shouldn't. But
the
I'd rather
difference
have that
is,
aggressiveness.
but the difference is last season, and again, it's not going to translate exactly. So they always say shave off X amount of percentage points off of everything. So if your yards per pass or yards per attempt is really high, expect to dial that back about 20%. And if your completion percentage will probably drop about 11%, whatever it is. There's all these different numbers. But this man threw a 77.4% completion percentage last year on 500 plus throws. We're not talking like a McCarthy who threw the ball like 11 times a game, or I think I heard the one guy joke around on the draft when they were talking about Iowa, how they threw the ball 10 times a game or whatever. But this guy was throwing the ball 30, 40 times a game and still walked away with a 77%. And here's what I love about the mix. What I love about this pick. If you remember, Drew Brees out of Purdue, he was phenomenal in Purdue. But he did not look good with the Chargers at all. I mean, aside from the motorcycle accident, obviously he had his setbacks. But he did not look good in San Diego at all those first couple of years. He goes with Sean Payton. He goes to New Orleans, and they have some of the greatest years. Statistically, had over 5,000 yards twice, over 40 touchdowns twice, you name it. That guy led the league in completion percentage. Here's the thing. Guess what? Now it's all over again. Sean Payton is now going to be teamed up with Bo Nix. Not only that, but you just gave Bo Nix his number one weapon back. Because guess what they did in the 5th round? They picked up Troy Franklin out of Oregon. So now you have a comfortability, and everybody said he played some of the most snaps out of any quarterback in this draft. He has the most experience in this draft.
You got to think he had those numbers despite his 2 losses against Washington.
Yeah.
The
Washington defense was phenomenal. I mean, you got to stop crapping on this guy because they had a great defense last year.
Yeah, Washington's defense was, the big guys. I shit on the Pac-12 for the past couple of years, but last year they were so entertaining. They were so good. Oregon State was good. Washington was good. Utah was good. All of those teams were fantastic. And I will tell you what. It was the most exciting conference in my opinion to watch, and Bo Nix was dynamite. I mean, he's like Justin Herbert,
That's kind of where I compare him. I mean, but I would say if you want to compare based on size, based on accuracy, based on, and again, like you said, he's not some guy throwing the ball. Listen, Kenny Pickett at one point, I think last year his completion percentage was like sky high. But if you look, 87% of his throws were within 10 yards, and they were very, very short passes. You live by the small ball, you die by the small ball. You got to be able to stretch the ball. The thing with him that impresses me is to be a gunslinger at 77%. Yes, it's college, but to be a gunslinger, and I think he had 2 games with 6 touchdown passes last year.
He's a gunslinger, but you still got to remember he's throwing to college talent. He had 2 key guys. Yeah. Other than that, he spread the ball out. It wasn't just he had one receiver. So guys, that's a good catch, and I can't believe he went 34th, and I can't believe Penix went 35th.
Yeah. I mean, for me though, I think that's why I have Bo Nix's number as the number 1 quarterback in this draft. I think when I look back in 10 years, I can't wait to brag about how I was right, because everybody else has been crapping on him. I've been watching the mock drafts, and they're like, "Oh, this guy's a 2nd-round talent." I'm like, "What do you mean a 2nd-round talent? Have you watched this guy play football?" Because if you look at it, outside of one huge year 2 years ago, Caleb Williams has not been all that. Last year he struggled. His defense, okay, fine, but he still struggled offensively. So the things that carry over to the pros, footwork is always going to carry over. If you can make the right moves in the pocket, it's always going to carry. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change. Yeah. The fact that you can read the defense so well that you can throw 77% completion and you have more medium and deep throws than any other quarterback in college football and still have that high of a level of completions, that tells me that you're going to translate at least 80%. Again, that's going to translate. Maybe that 77% becomes 68%. But that's still top of the NFL. That's top tier quarterback.
What about Penix going to back up Kirk Cousins? I mean, did you see the memes where he's in a wheelchair when he finally gets to play?
Yep. But I love it. Because I'm going to tell you why I love it. And at first I hated it. And Freight Train and I were crapping on it on the show. I'm not sure if you knew you were doing your own thing with Bubba and them guys. But when we first saw that pick, my jaw dropped, his jaw dropped. And we looked down at our phones. And we had our mock drafts open on our phone. And we're like, I didn't have him in the first round. I had him bumped out of the first round. And I'm like, oh my God, number 8. And we hate it. We're like, oh, this was so stupid. So I got to say, though, every time I look at it now, I like it more. Because Kirk Cousins is 36. He has a 2-year deal, which he'll be 38 when it's over. Now, I agree, $45 million a year was insane. They were just desperate for a quarterback. They probably weren't sure if they were going to draft a quarterback or not. But you now take a guy. If you watched the NFL last year, perfect example, and I'll make it quick. The New York Jets last season, right? They were projected to make an AFC Championship run. That's how good they were on paper. And that team was stacked on paper, dominant all the way around. Rodgers just had to stay healthy. 34 seconds into the year, the season was over. Zach Wilson comes in, they're drafted number 10 overall. They were that bad last year. That goes to show a lot of these teams. This is what you're going to start seeing a lot. I truly believe over the next couple of years, you're going to see a lot of teams hold on to. You're going to stockpile QBs. What you're going to do is you're going to start rotating them for health purposes too. If you remember the first year that Michael Vick came to Philadelphia, I think it was 2010 or 2011. He first came to Philadelphia, and he was running off with a Wildcat. He just got out of jail. Yeah. We brought him in. He would get like 4 or 5 snaps a game. That's all he was getting. But he'd come in. He would throw once in a while. He would run once in a while. But that's what's going to happen. You're going to start finding these teams taking 2 quarterbacks because the Jets proved the point last year. If one guy goes down, the whole thing could be over. You can have the stackest team on the paper. You can have the greatest team on paper that you want. If your quarterback is not good, you already lost. It's already over. It's done.
That's like opening a store and saying, I'm just selling Beanie Babies. And guess what? It shits the bed, and no one wants Beanie Babies. That was what Aaron Rodgers was last year for Jets land.
But that's what I'm trying to say is I think what happened with the Falcons and why it was smart is they're planning for the just in case. Like he is an insurance. He's an insurance policy. He's an insurance policy, and he's a cheap one. He's a rookie. He's gonna have a rookie contract. He'll sit there for the next, and a contract lasts 5 years. You get 4 years. You have to give a 5th-year option or not. So no matter what, you're going to have him on your roster for at least 4. So that gives you plenty of time to see what this Kirk Cousins thing is going to do.
Yeah.
He is raw. Everybody said he's raw. He has a lot to work on. Well, what better way to do that than behind a quarterback who, yes, he hasn't won playoff games, but has been very successful overall. I mean, the guy's made a ton of money.
He is.
And he's made big plays.
Utilitarian. Serviceable.
You put Penix behind him, see what happens. And this isn't the first time. Kirk Cousins forgets. When they drafted RG3 that year in the first round with the 3rd overall or 2nd overall pick, people don't realize Kirk Cousins was taken in that same draft in the 5th round. They were drafted the same year. They took RG3 in round 1, pick number 2. They took Kirk Cousins in the 5th round, the same draft in 2011. So Kirk Cousins better cut this crybaby crap out. Oh, I don't know why they would sign a guy right after they signed me. Well, I wonder. After they drafted RG3, number 2 overall, they took you 3 rounds later, you bum. I like the move. It's growing on me. I think 8 was way too early. For all that, you should have traded down. I will say that. Yeah. They should have traded down from 8 to maybe the mid-teens. You probably could have got paid a ton to do that. That's what I would have done is trade in a little bit further back, and then you still would have got Penix. I mean, Penix would have been there maybe up until 13. I mean, I think 13 he would have maybe went to the Raiders. But the Falcons Falcons were desperate.
With the ladies, they say that 2 5s don't equal 10. But in my opinion, 2 second-round draft picks is better than 1 first round. In my opinion.
Well, it depends on where they are. It depends on where they land. I mean, if you're back in the 50th picks, like the second, like the back end of the second round, not as much. But I agree. But like 33 through 50 is definitely valuable. The first 17 picks. The first 17 picks of the second round. But
this draft was loaded with talent.
Again, there was 2 first rounds, 2 seconds, 2 thirds. I mean, I don't think there was a 6th round pick in this. I really don't. But yeah, man. I mean, there was some weird ones. Like I said, Brendan Wright's falling was weird. There was a few different guys that dropped, and they absolutely blew my mind. Like I said, Jeremiah Trotter, Brendan Rice, just to name a few. But yeah, I mean, one kid I want to see play at some point. I don't know if you like him or not. That Michael Pratt kid from Tulane. I watched a lot of tape on him.
Oh, Tulane. Hey, guys, Tulane has been a fantastic program for 3 years.
Yeah, well, you were bragging about them last year on the college pick show. You're like, go to the Wave, baby. Here we go.
Yeah.
You loved them.
Well, at the beginning of last season, I was bragging about how good they were, and look at what they've had. They have the NFL talent. So
that guy was spectacular. That guy was. I watched a lot of his tape recently. Before the draft came, I was like, I'm gonna do this by position. I'm gonna pick my top 10 quarterbacks to watch. I'm gonna pick my top 10 by position. So I just watched everybody's highlights. I tried to watch a little bit of like combine stuff if I could find it, because a lot of these guys didn't do shit in the combine, and it's almost impossible to find pro day tape. So I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna watch whatever I can find. And I gotta say, Michael Pratt looks really good in the pocket, man. That guy has an arm. I think there's guys that we don't talk about enough.
Get some zip.
But the problem
I was doing my own combine stuff last night. My son, who's been working out 4 times, 5 times a week, and he wanted to run a 40, and he just gained like 28 pounds since the end of the football season.
Wow.
So I time him like he's gonna be slow. He ran a 4.7, a 4.7, and a 4.80.
That's not bad at all.
Pretty good for a 15-year-old.
That's not bad at all. By the time he hits 18, 19, 20 years old, the kid's going to be running a
4 or 5
flat.
maybe?
4 or 5
Maybe
flat.
4 or 5? Yeah.
If you can break 4 or 5, if you can break 4 or 5, that's impressive.
I think it's a little bit of a grade going up I had him. And it's as flat as I could find, but it's a little bit of a grade. So take a half a tenth off of that.
Take him to a high school somewhere and just have him run on the track.
I'm going to do that because I just wanted to kind of see, I use Google Earth to kind of place my points.
Was he wearing like regular shoes and stuff too, though? Was he wearing like sneakers?
Yeah, he's wearing running shoes, running shoes.
You got to put them cleats on, man. It gives you the better grip. Well, not the grip, like track shoes. You got to get track shoes.
Track shoes, but that's getting down and putting your arm back and doing that. So practicing that'll help. But yeah, I was pretty surprised. We'll see what happens. He's been getting
off that block is hard. It's funny because you see a lot of these NFL guys now. They talk about their 40s.
They practice that,
and they're like, "Yeah, I ran a 4.45, but I also tripped off the block. So if I would have made it off the block smoothly, imagine what my 40 would have been."
Isn't that amazing?
That's hard. I mean, I'll tell you what. The Eagles.
Who was that in the draft that ran and just kept running? He ran like a 4.225 and just kept running.
Oh, that was Worthy. That was Xavier Worthy from Texas. He ran like a 4.22.
Man, you have such a good memory. I wish I had that.
I think he's overrated.
It's
funny because I had no idea who that guy was. I mean, I saw him play in Texas, but he wasn't a big name until the 40-yard dash, and all of a sudden it's a big deal. People need to start realizing the 40 does not always translate. It can. You want to have speed, don't get me wrong, but it does not matter worth a shit because at the end of the day,
what I told him.
At the end of the day, you can be as fast as you want, but if you got hands like Aguilar or you got the route running of a Juju Smith-Schuster, it don't matter. Your speed don't matter. So it's funny because the Eagles just signed this guy, and he used to have one of the fastest 40s of all time. Was John Ross III, who went to Cincinnati at the time. The Eagles just signed him onto the team a couple of days ago, and I'm like, oh god, here we go, another waste of roster spot. He's awful. John Ross is an awful receiver, fast as hell. Dude should go run track for a living. God, is he a terrible receiver. He was awful in Cincinnati, absolutely awful. But yeah, we got to stop with this 40 crap, man. I'm so tired
now with bobsledding, that works.
Bobsledding. Who said?
Thanks for having me on.
No problem, man. Listen, it's been a pleasure, guys. Thank you, Tiffany. Hey, how you doing, sweetheart? Thank you for tuning in. Much appreciated from out there in California.
California.
But yeah, guys. So listen, I appreciate you coming on, Danny. Congratulations again on the $50 gift card. Thank you for submitting the mock draft. Shane, thanks for popping on, and I will see you, I'm sure, soon on Steelers Dynasty Podcast. I think that is when do you guys go live?
Wednesdays at 9.
Wednesdays at 9. Nobody goes watching lives on Hump Day. I'm just kidding. But no, yes, make sure you check them guys out. They are the Steelers Dynasty Podcast every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you guys want to check them out, there's also the Triple B Experience Wrestling Show, which is also a whole mumble jumble. You can call it a miscellaneous show, is what it is.
Yeah, it's a
wrestling, TV, comics, you name it. They go every Friday night at 9:00. So, and there are some specials that we do as well. Like there's a big WrestleMania PLE coming up. You might see them pop up. But tune into those guys' show. Danny, anything you want to say before we hop out of here? Since you've never plugged in your life.
No, I mean, I'm pretty much good.
Miss you, Danny. How you been, buddy?
Good seeing you.
Good to see you.
But all right, guys. Well, hey, this has been another fun episode. Shane, thanks a lot. Danny, thanks a lot. We will see you guys again next Thursday. Hopefully, Freight Train does not miss his stop this time because the train must be sticking on the rails all night long because he is not showing up. So, much love the Freight Train. Congrats on the new job. We will see you soon. Take care, ladies and gentlemen. We will see you next time. And it's always